Good morning everybody. We will start with the concept of banker and customer relationship, and as far as we were able to understand the relationship between the banker and a customer is primary relationship, subsidiary relationship, and then further with special relationship. Let's continue with the concept of special relationship between the customer and the banker. This relationship exists because of the obligations of the banker towards his customer and rights of the banker and vice versa. On understanding this concept, let's understand the first and the last, not the last, the banker's obligation and rights regarding apportionment of payments. The customer owes several distinct debts to a banker and makes a payment which is insufficient to discharge his whole indebtedness. There is a problem of appropriating this payment. In such situation, Indian rules regarding apportionment is taken into consideration. So the right of apportionment of accounts. The bank has a right to appropriate accounts when there are two or more debts owing from a borrower and the latter makes a payment to the bank. The banker has an obligation to appropriate the payments in settlement of his account in accordance to the customer's instructions. That is, as to the instructions given by the customer, banker has an obligation to appropriate the payment in the settlement of his account. As per to the general rule, if the debtor fails to make any specific appropriation of the payments made by him at the time of making the payments, the creditor can appropriate or apply the payment to any debt. So he can appropriate, that means he can adjust the payments made by him at the time of making the payments. The creditor can appropriate, apply the payments by any debt, even the time-barred debts, and inform the customer as to how he has appropriated the payments. So the creditor has a right regarding apportionment of the payment any time to any lawful debts. So the right of appropriation of amount will rise when a customer owes several debts to a banker and his payment is not sufficient to discharge all his debts. The next aspect to understand is banker's obligation and rights when a customer's account is attached by a garnishing order. That is, when a debtor fails to pay the amount due from his creditor and when creditor knows that some money is due to his debtor from the another party, debtor of his debtor. So I'll make it very clear. When a debtor has failed to pay the amount due from his creditor and when creditor knows that some money is due to his debtor from another party, he may apply to the court for the issue of garnishing order on the debtor of his debtor, attaching the amount due from him to his debtor and directing him to pay the same on to the judgment creditor. That is, a garnishing order will come into consideration only when a debtor is failing to pay the amount due from his creditor, and now the creditor has known to it that some money is due to this debtor from another party. That means if there are two people A and B and A has to get money from B and B has to get money from C. And in this situation, A, who has to get money from B, has clearly understood that A who has to get money from B has clearly understood that B has to get money from C. So now A will ask C to pay the money to him. To get this payments done by C to A, not to B, is with the help of garnishing order. That means A has a right to apply to the court for the issue of garnishing order on his debts due and for the money that B has to get from C, who has his debts. B has given some debts to C, so C has to pay him back. So instead of paying to B, C will pay to A as to the directions and the orders given by the garnishee order. Thus, garnishee order comes into existence only if a debtor fails to pay the debt to his creditor. The creditor may apply to the court for issuing garnishee order on the banker of his debtor, and this is issued under the order 25 Rule 46 of the Code of Civil Procedures 1908. Obligation of a banker to honor his customer's check is extinguished on the receipt of a garnishee order. Such order attaches the debt not secured by a negotiable instrument, prohibiting the creditor from recovering the debt and the debtor for making payment. So whenever a garnishee order is issued or attached to a debt not secured by negotiable instrument, prohibiting the creditor from recovering the debt and debtor from making payments. Thus, account of a customer becomes suspended. So to make you very clear that when a debtor is failed to pay the amount due from a creditor, and when creditor knows that some money is due to his debtor from another party, he may apply to the court for the issue of garnishee order on the debtor of his debtor, attaching the amount due from him to his debtor and directing him to the pay of the same to the judgment creditor. Thus, the word garnishee is derived from a Latin word garnier, which means to war. So, a garnishee order is an order issued by the court at the request, means at the instance of judgment creditor. Creditor who has applied to the court for the issue of the garnishee order to the garnishee, judgment debtor's debtor, warning him, that is the garnishee, not to pay the money owned by him to the judgment debtor, that is the party who owes money to the judgment creditor, until the claim of judgment creditor is disposed of. So I am very clear about the garnishee order. But garnishee order can be operated only when circumstances where the customer's account must be in credit, account should belong to the customer in his own right, must state the name, address of the customer accurately. The debt attached by the garnishee order must be actually due. Funds attachable by garnishee order. Deposits repayable on demand. So what are the funds that you may ask for garnishee order? See, garnishee order cannot be taken for everything. This order is applicable or can be obtained only for the following funds. That is, deposits repayable on demand. That is, current deposit in the name of judgment debtor at the time garnishee order is served on the banker. Secondly, saving bank deposit to the creditor of judgment debtor at the time of garnishee order is served. Fixed deposit in the name of judgment debtor at the time garnishee order is served. When a check has been presented for payment, actual payment has not yet been made by the banker, and in the meantime garnishee order is served upon him, the banker must stop payment of the check even if it is passed for payment. And clear, a check has been present for payment. Actual payment has not yet been made by the banker, and in meantime if the garnishee order is served, then the banker must stop the payment of the said check even if it is passed for payments. If a customer has asked his banker to transfer an amount from his account and the banker has already made necessary entries of such transfer in his book, But before intimation could be sent to the account holder, garnishee order is reserved by the banker. The garnishee order is applicable to the amount so transferred. Funds which are attachable to the garnishee order, I think are very clear. It is deposits repayable on demand deposits, saving bank deposits to the credit of the judgment debtor, fixed deposits in the name of the judgment debtor, check which has been presented for payment and the actual payment has not yet been made by the banker. Meantime, if the order is served, then he has to go for stop payment of the check. If the customer has asked his banker to transfer an amount from his account, then the banker has already made the necessary entries of such transfer in his book. But before intimation could be sent to the account holder, garnishee order is received by the banker. Then the garnishee order is applicable to the amount so transferred. Funds not attachable by a garnishee order. The funds, certain funds you cannot go for the garnishee order. What are those funds then? The funds are fixed deposit or SB deposit accounts, that is saving bank deposits coming into the hands of the banker after the receipt of the order are not attachable. So you have a fixed deposit or a saving bank deposit coming in the hands of the banker. It comes to the hands of the banker after the receipt of the order are not attachable. Secondly, fixed deposits which are repayable on a specified period of notice cannot be attached by a garnishee order. If you have an FD for a specified period, then you cannot go for attachment of a garnishee order, because on the maturity the amount will automatically goes to the customer's account. Therefore, you cannot go for attaching of a garnishee order in case the notice of withdrawal of deposit has not been given by the customer to the banker before garnishee order has been served. Credit balance in a joint account cannot be attached by a garnishee order issued against one or some of the joint account holders, not against all the joint account holders. So if there is any credit balance in the joint account, this cannot be attached by garnishee order issued against any one or some of the joint account holders, but not against all the joint account holders. For example, there are 3 of you who are a joint account holder. One of them garnishee order is attached, not to all the 3 of them. This is what it means to say. A credit balance in a trust account cannot be attached by garnishee order. So any trust account can never be attached by garnishee order issued against the trustee operating the trust account. Credit balance in a partnership firm account is not attachable by a garnishee order issued against any of the partners. Overdrawn account of a customer cannot be attached by garnishee order even if there is an unutilized credit limit in the overdrawn account. Overdrawn account of a customer cannot be attached. If you have drawn more than the balance, then you cannot attach a garnishee order even if there is an unutilized credit limit in the overdrawn account. So OD cannot be attached with garnishee order. Credit balances of partnership firms cannot be attached by garnishee order. Credit balance of trust account cannot be attached by a garnishee order. I think this is very clear. Then amounts of uncleared checks, drafts of bills cannot be attached by a garnishee order. So if you have uncleared drafts and checks and billings, then you cannot attach it by a garnishee order. So we are very clear that a garnishee order is a right that has been given by the banker towards those customers who have not cleared their debts but they themselves owe debts to another party. In such situations, you can claim this order. You can attach this order for certain funds and you cannot attach this order for certain funds. That if you are able to understand, then garnishee order as a right can have its completeness of understanding by the banker. Very important. The relationship between the banker and the customer will also go with applicability of law of limitation to bank deposits and advances. Further, he has also got a right and obligation as a banker in regard to closing of the bank accounts. Closing of bank accounts, it means to say termination of the relationship between the banker and his customer by payment of final credit balance of the customer by the banker to the customer. So what does it means to say? Banker has to close the account of his customer. Once a banker is closing the accounts of his customer, it means to say he is terminating the relationship between the banker and the customer by payment of the final credit balance of the customers by the banker, either at the instance of the customer or at the instance of the banker, or as to the operational of law. That means either the customer say, I want to close my account, either the banker may say, you close your account, or because of the operation of law, sometimes the accounts are closed. So closing of a bank account, it means to say you are giving an end to the relationship between the banker and the customer. The rights and obligations of a bank in regard to closing of bank accounts. That is, a bank account can be closed by mutual agreement between the banker and the customer. That means to say, a banker and customer may agree by themselves that they are going to close the account. Banker and customer mutually means with the understanding they themselves decide to close their account, to close their relationship that exists between them as banker and customer. By notice by the customer, that means to say a customer cannot close his account in a bank at any time he likes. Whenever he wants to see, he cannot say, I'll close my account. He can only close his account without assigning any reason and even without giving any notice to the banker by merely withdrawing entire balance in his bank to his credit through a check. So by notice by the customer, that means to say customer cannot close his account in a bank at any time. You have to think that whenever I want, I may close the account. It is not possible. He can close his account without assigning any reason. He has his rights. He may say, I will close my account. This can be given without any reason or without giving any notice to the banker. He just may go withdraw all the balances, whatever is left in his credit, through a check. He closes the account when he no longer needs a bank account. And when this happens only when he is no longer in need of a bank account, when he is not satisfied with the terms and conditions of the bank, like the rate of interest offered by the bank on the deposits. When he is not satisfied with the quality of service that is rendered by the bank, when he loses confidence in the solvency of the bank, then he may, by notice by the customer, close the account. Thirdly, by request by the banker. When a customer account is unoperated for a very long period of time, the banker may request a customer to withdraw his balance and close his account. So long days you are not used your account at all, then the banker may himself request the customer, if you are not using the bank for such long period of time, it is better to withdraw your balances and close the account. The another way and an obligation of a banker regarding close of banking accounts is by transfer to the unclaimed deposit account. Sometimes customer's account may remain inoperated for a long period and the banker, even after reasonable efforts, may not be able to trace the customer for the purpose of requesting him to withdraw his balance. See what it means to say? There is an account holder in a bank. He has kept the account but has remained operated, not been operated for a very long period of time. Now the banker has made reasonable efforts to trace out such customers and for the purpose of requesting him to withdraw his balance and close his account. In such cases, banker may transfer the balance of the customer account called unclaimed deposit account and thereby closes account. So what it means to say is, if a bank wants to terminate the relationship of banker and customer, it has got certain rights and obligations regarding it. One is, when both banker and customer agree, they may close the account. Another aspect is, when a customer cannot close his account as he wants, but he can close his account without assigning any reasons. He cannot close as he wants, but he can close it without assigning any reason, without giving any notice, just by merely withdrawing money, whatever in his credit, through a check. And he may also close his account when he closes the account when he is not in need of an account, when he is not satisfied with the deposit interest rates given by the bank, is not satisfied with the services given by them, he loses confidence in the credibility of the bank. Then, by a notice by the customer, the account can be closed. By request by the banker is in those situations when we find that there is a customer to the bank who has not operated for a very long period of time. In such situation, he may request the customer to close his account. There is another situation wherein there is a transfer to unclaimed deposit account. That means to say, there is a customer who has to operate his account but remains unoperated for a very long period of time, and after reasonable efforts by the banker, he is not able to trace such customers for the purpose of requesting them to withdraw the amount whatever is left in his credit. In such situation, what the banker does is it transfers the balance of the customer's account called unclaimed deposit account and thereby closes account. Bank by notice by the banker. If the customer's account is undesirable, that is, repeatedly issue of checks without having sufficient balance, you won't have a balance but you have issued check, and this is not the first time, done many times. If the customer deposit check which are dishonored, whatever the checks you have given for deposit has been dishonored. If the customer often fails to fulfill his obligations of repaying the bank overdraft or loan, the banker may give notice to his customer to withdraw his balance and close his account. So the notice will be given by the banker on seeing that he has repeatedly used those checks for payments, though he knows there is no funds with him. He has deposited those checks which has been dishonored. He has failed to fulfill the obligations of repaying the bank overdraft or loan. So the banker may give notice to such customers to withdraw his balance and close his accounts. And the last is by the operation of law. When a banker closes a customer's account under the compulsion by law, when is it compulsion by law? Is on the receipt of notice of consumer's death, on receipt of notice of customer's insolvency, on the receipt of garnishing order, on the notice of customer's insanity, on the receipt of notice of winding up. Thus, we were able to understand the relationship of a banker and customer has a special relationship through their obligations and rights. So to conclude the topic, the banker and the customer, with this. Thus, banker and customer has a very unique and special relationship among each other. The whole content is with the concept of who a banker is and what are the features of a bank, what is the role and importance of a bank, what are the functions of a bank, and what are the relationship that exists between a banker and a customer. Understanding this, we are able to find out bank plays a very important role in today's world, and further you can analyze more better with the help of MCQ questions, which will be able to you to reasonably answer, and this reasoning and analysis may enforce yourself with the knowledge of the content banker and customer. Thank you.